Welcome students. This is chapter of grade 9 science. Chapter number 15, improvement in food resources. As we all know that food is an essential organic substances which is required for the growth and proper functioning of all the living organisms that are living on the earth. The food provides us nutrients like carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals for the growth, development, maintenance of large population present on the earth. So, to meet the demand of food with the increasing population, improvement in the food resources is required. So, our first topic is need for improvement in food resources in India. India is a very India is a country with more amount of population. Its population exceeds beyond 1 million people and it is still growing. So to feed this growing population, we need more amount of food. We need more tons of food grains every year. And this requirement can only be fulfilled if the farmers will do farming on more land. But India is already intensively cultivated. So we do not have a scope of increasing the area of land under cultivation. So therefore what steps is necessary? What can we do to increase the production of the country or increase the production efficiency for both crops and livestock? That all we will be doing in this chapter. Now to meet these requirements, Green Revolution has been contributed in increasing the food grain production. Same way, White Revolution also has led to the better availability of milk. The scientific researches have also contributed to these revolutions. These revolutions mean that with the help of the natural resources, we can contribute towards this green revolution and white revolution. Due to this, there are more chances of causing damage to our natural resources, environment and disturbing its balance completely. So we should increase our food production without degrading our environment and disturbing its balance. So this can only be done by incorporating the sustainable development practices or the sustainable practices in agriculture and animal husbandry. High yields from farms can be obtained easily by doing some scientific management practices. And this scientific management practices includes mixed farming, intercropping, combination of agricultural practices with livestock, poultry, fisheries, beekeeping, a combination of all these farming practices. So what all types of seeds or crops could be cultivated that can benefit the human beings? We can cultivate cereal crops, pulses, oil seed crops, vegetables, spices and fruits, fodder crops, all these crops. Now you know that each of the crops or pulses or oil seeds, every crop require a different climatic conditions, temperature and photo periods for their growth. Photo periods means the availability of sunlight. Growth of plants and flowering depends on the duration of sunlight. So plants also need sunlight to perform the process of photosynthesis. The presence of sunlight, the process of making food by the plants with the help of sunlight is known as photosynthesis, and the availability of sunlight is known as photoperiods. Now again we have learned that the crops have been classified into two on the basis of the seasons. The first one is Kharif crop and Rabi crops. Kharif crops are the crops that are grown in the hot and rainy season. Okay, so it is generally cultivated in the month of June to October. Paddy, soybean, maize, cotton, green gram, groundnut, black gram, all are the examples of Kharif crops. Next is the Rabi crops. Rabi crops are generally grown during dry and winter season. So it is cultivated in the month of November to April. The examples of rabi crops are wheat, gram, pea, mustard, barley, etc. Next is improvement in the crop yield. The practices that are involved in farming to increase the crop production can be divided into three stages. The first is the choice of seed for planting. The second one is how to nurture the crops that have been grown. And the third is their protection. And before, after harvesting and before harvesting of the crops. According to these major groups of activities, the crop yield is classified into three, that is the crop variety improvement, crop production improvement, and crop protection improvement. So first we will discuss in detail about the crop variety management. Now the main funda or the main aim of this practice, that is crop variety improvement, is to find out variety of crops which can grow in different situations like diverse climatic conditions, availability of water, high salinity of the soil. The crops which can grow in all these conditions, we have to first our aim is to first cultivate this kind of crops. So in order to accept the new varieties of crops, it is necessary that we should produce good yield under different conditions. For this, the farmer should be provided with good quality of seeds. The seeds should be of the same variety and should germinate under the same conditions. Varieties or strains of crops can be selected by breeding for various traits such as disease resistant, response to fertilizers, product quality, high yield, etc. A new variety can be developed with all the features, the above mentioned features. So, what are the ways for the improvement in crop variety? There is certain ways of improvement of crop variety that we can incorporate desirable characteristics into crop varieties. The first one is with the help of hybridization, and the second one is with the help of genetically modified crops. Hybridization is the crossing between two dissimilar plants to produce a new plant. It is known as high yield variety, HYV seeds. Again, this high yielding variety crops are further classified into intervarietal, interspecific, and intergeneric. Intervarietal means the cross between the two plants that belongs to different variety of crops. Interspecific means the cross is made between two plants which belong to different species, but they belong to the same genus. And intergeneric means the cross is made between the plants belonging to different genera. The other type of incorporating desirable characteristics into crop varieties is with the help of genetically modified crops. This includes the manipulation or the segregation of crop plants for increasing their yield, which improves the quality, its sustainability. In this, the genetically manipulation provides desired characteristics in the crop. Now, the factors of crop variety improvement are what are the importance, why is it necessary for the crop variety improvement? So that we can get high yield. Variety improvement is done to increase the productivity of the crop per acre. Okay, in small part of area, so that we can get the high yield of crops, because already we know that our country is already the cultivable land is very less. So in that area only we have to think of high yield of crops. The next one is improved quality. Quality means the different types of crops should have good quality. For example, if you take example of a wheat plant, its baking quality should be good. If you take an example of pulses, it should be having high protein content. If you take example of oil seeds, it should provide good quality of oil. Good quality of oil could be extracted from oil seeds. In case of fruits and vegetables, its preserving quality should be good. So this all things comes in the improved quality. The third one is the biotic and the abiotic resistance. Biotic resistance means the biotic stresses, that is disease, insects and nematodes. And the abiotic stresses means salinity, waterlogging, heat, cold and frost stresses. Both these factors affect the production to a great extent. Varieties resistant to such conditions are always preferred as they help to improve the crop production. The fourth one is change in maturity duration. Short duration or period between sowing and harvesting makes a crop more economical. So it allows the farmers to grow multiple rounds of crops in a year. He can grow multiple crops in a year, which reduces his cost of crop production. There will be uniformity in the maturity. This uniformity in the maturity makes the harvesting process also easier, and it reduces the loss during harvesting. The third one is wider adaptability. Developing varieties that can grow and adapt to different climatic conditions, temperature, help in stabilizing the crop production, so that a single variety will be grown in different regions with different climatic conditions. Whatever climatic conditions would be there, we can grow any kind of plants in any of the climatic conditions. So it is not necessary that a particular type of crops requires red soil, black soil or humid climate, so we can grow only in that regions. We have to produce this kind of high yielding variety or genetically modified crops so that it can be grown in any climatic conditions. The third one is desired agronomic the last one is desired agronomic characteristics. These characteristics generally include the growth and higher productivity in plants, the plants which show preferred characteristics, the characters that we need in the particular plant. For example, tallness and profuse branching are some of the desirable characters that is to be seen in a fodder crop. Dwarfness is the desired characteristics in cereals. So we can modify so that with the help of less nutrients only will be consumed by these crops. Okay, next is crop production management. This crop production management involves the crop production for the best yield, but it requires skillful dealing with almost all aspects of crop production. It is the money or the financial condition which allows the farmers to take up different farming practices or agricultural technologies. The farmer should input some of the amount to purchase certain things, okay, which with the help of which he can get good cropping system and production practices. So thus the production practices can be grouped into three levels, that is no cost, low cost or high cost. Okay, so this crop production management includes management of nutrients, irrigation and cropping pattern. So first we will do the nutrient management. Like animals, plants also require nutrients for their growth and development. These nutrients are the inorganic elements which are supplied to the plants with the help of by air, water and soil. Total there are 16 essential nutrients that are required by the plants. From air they get the carbon and oxygen. From water the plants get hydrogen, oxygen, and from the soil they get the macronutrients and the micronutrients. As I told you, total there are 16 essential nutrients. Out of the 16 essential nutrients, the 3 of them are carbon, oxygen and hydrogen that they get from the air and soil, and the remaining 13 nutrients that they get from the soil in the form of macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients include the 6 nutrients and these nutrients are utilized by the plant in large quantities. So they are known as macronutrients. The examples of macronutrients as mentioned in the table are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur. And micronutrients, the 7 nutrients that is listed in the table is included in the micronutrients as the plant require these nutrients in smaller quantities. Okay, I said smaller quantities. It is not like that they do not require micronutrients. They require micronutrients also, but the quantity is very less. For example, 0.01 percentage of iron, 0.001 percentage of manganese. Okay, so micronutrients means these nutrients are required by plants in very smaller quantities. Now, deficiency of any of these nutrients will affect the reproduction, growth, and its resistance to diseases, the plant's resistance to different diseases. Nutrients can be supplied to the soil in the form of manure and fertilizers. Okay, so manures and fertilizers helps to compensate the nutrient availability from the soil during the crop production. Manures are the natural fertilizers which are present in the organic substances form during the decomposition of animal excreta and plant waste. It supplies small quantities of nutrients to the soil. Based on this type of biological material used, manure is again classified as compost and vermicompost. Okay, compost means the process by which farm waste materials like the excreta, cow dung, vegetable waste, animal refuse, or domestic waste, eradicated weeds, all are decomposed in a pit known as a composting. This compost will contain rich amount of organic matter and nutrients, and preparation of this compost is done by earthworms to certain other worms which helps in the process of decomposition of plants, and it is known as vermicomposting. Other one is the green manure. Some plants like guar are grown and mulched for plowing into the field soil before sowing the crop seeds, so that the green plants turn into green manure for the crops. It helps in increasing the nitrogen and phosphorus content in the soil. It also helps in hydration, aeration, and crumb structure of the soil. Now, next is the advantages of manure. Manure is useful as it enriches soil with nutrients and organic matter. Manure increases the soil fertility and decreases the effects of pesticides, insecticides on soil. It helps in improving the soil structure by increasing the water holding capacity. In case of clay soil, large amount quantity of organic matter helps in drainage and avoiding waterlogging. Manure helps in recycling of farm waste also. Next is the use of fertilizers. Fertilizers are commercially produced plant nutrients. That is, it is a man-made nutrient. They supply NPK to soil, that is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium to the soil. The advantages of fertilizers are that it is easily available, it can be easily stored. With the help of use of fertilizers, the yield of crops can be increased. It can also be used to ensure good vegetative growth and give rise to healthy plants. But it has certain disadvantages also. If excessive use of fertilizers can cause water pollution as they wash away the upper layer of the soil and they are not absorbed fully by the plants due to excessive irrigation. Continuous use of fertilizers will destroy the soil fertility because the organic matter in the soil does not get replenished because of the use of fertilizers. So microorganisms also in the soil are harmed by the use of fertilizers. They provide short-term benefits. Okay, manure takes long time to for the crop to grow, but it doesn't harm the crops. Its long term doesn't harm the crops. So thus this fertilizers doesn't maintain the soil fertility, and it has a short term benefits. Next, The second one is irrigation. Most of the plants, the process of supplying water to crops by the means of canals, reservoirs, tube well is known as irrigation. Agricultural practices in India are rain dependent. Success of agriculture depends on timely monsoon and sufficient amount of rainfall or water to the crops. Ensuring that the water will be supplied to the crops at the right time, it's required in a required amount, the crop yield will also be increased. So the farmers completely depend on water from the sources like natural sources like pond, wells, canals for the irrigation for of their farmlands. So generally they depend on this dug wells, tube wells, canals, river lift systems, tanks. There are certain modern techniques also which helps in the increasing the water availability. They include the rainwater harvesting and the watershed development. Rainwater harvesting means rainwater is collected into a ground by digging tunnels in the ground. This water percolates into the soil and thus maintain the water table, that is the amount of water in the groundwater level. It maintains the groundwater level. Next is the watershed development. Small check dams are built to increase the groundwater level. The purpose of this is to stop the rainwater from flowing away and also to reduce the soil erosion.